Happy holidays and welcome to the Michael Welch podcast. We have a great slate of stuff happening this Christmas weekend. Before we get to that, we had a nice slate of college basketball games on Wednesday night. It was billed as such a game, as such a night with top games. We had number 21 Duke taking down number 10 Baylor. Of course, Baylor getting thumped by Michigan State last weekend, only to turn around and take it from the Blue Devils on the road as well. A tough loss, 78-70. Couple 9-0 runs in this one from the Duke Blue Devils, including a 19-11 run down the stretch after a tie game. It was back and forth for a while there, but the Blue Devils ultimately pulled it out. Big win for Duke, whose best win at this point in the season was that Michigan State Spartans team, who, of course, is having their difficulties right now. And this will be a big feather in the cap for the Duke Blue Devils. Jared McCain had 21 points on 7 for 11 shooting. Jeremy Roach had 18 points on 5 of 9 shooting. A double-double for Filipowski, who had 13 and 10, 4 assists, and 3 steals. The other starters were in double figures as well. Baylor had 4 players in double figures. The leading scorer was Raj Dennis with 17 points and 7 boards. And they didn't shoot well from the floor, just under 44%. They were 8 for 18 for three-point land, but just not able to pull it through here. They cut their turnovers down a bit, 21 against Michigan State in the horrible loss earlier in the week, and 14 here, but still too many turnovers against both opponents. The Baylor Bears' strength of schedule is looking a little light right now. Again, we just talked about Duke, but for the Baylor Bears right now, their top wins, according to Ken Palm's numbers, and not according to any AP polls or ESPN rankings. But Ken currently has their opening day win over Auburn as the best win. They also have top 100 wins over Florida and Seton Hall. So just tough losses to Duke and Michigan State here back to back. They need to get that cleaned up, but a nice win on the schedule for the Duke Blue Devils, and just a good college basketball game to watch there last night. Also on the slate here, we had another top 25 matchup. Excuse me. Number 11, North Carolina beat number 7, Oklahoma, 81-69. The Tar Heels were actually favored to win in this one and led for most of the game, 7 for 12 from 3 in the second half there. We'll get to Arizona in a minute, but it's kind of amazing. You remove Caleb Love from this roster, and he has a lot of success at Arizona, and then North Carolina continues to be very, very productive. Just kind of amazing that happens. You know, you move one body around, and it's almost addition by subtraction for both the team that he's added to and the North Carolina Tar Heels here. But Armada Babcock, 14 points, 8 rebounds, his normal pretty productive self there. 23 points for R.J. Davis, the superstar there. Shooting at volume, only 7 for 18 from the field, but 5 for 9 from the 3 line, 5 assists, 3 steals, all over the place. We have Ingram as well, 11 points, 4 steals, 13 for Cormac Ryan, and 7 boards as well. And we get a few of the bench guys in the mix. Overall, only 43% from the field, but almost 41% from 3. And the Sooners, 40% from the floor, 30% from 3, 66% from the line. Horrible all over there. Otega Owen leads scorers for the Sooners with 23 points and 6 for 10 from the floor. And just domination for the most part for the North Carolina Tar Heels, as they're looking like a much better team this year. They had 9 turnovers versus 18 for Oklahoma, and led by 15 at one point in this game, and just able to really beat the hell out of the Oklahoma Sooners here in a top 12 matchup technically here, and pull the minor upset in this ball game. This was just a tough loss for Oklahoma, which would have had an opportunity to both stay undefeated and grab a big win for the Resume. The highest ranking victory they have so far is Providence, who's not a top 25 team, but hanging on to the top 50 spot. They have wins over USC, Iowa, and Arkansas as well, but not a particularly dangerous schedule there. So that's just a terrible missed opportunity for them. North Carolina does have wins over Tennessee, which was big. This Oklahoma one was solid. Arkansas was good, but they missed opportunities in losses to Connecticut, Kentucky, and Villanova in overtime. So this was a nice one. They're 3-3 in games against top 100 teams. I guess Florida State, according to Ken Palm's ranking, slips in there as well. So they're 4-3 against top 100 teams. But this was a nice one to add to that resume as well. So moving on, a couple top 25 games there that were exciting to watch, certainly. Also on that docket, we had a couple of upsets after Marquette going down the night before. They were ranked number 6. We had 3 teams kind of at the top of the Big East there. Number 5, UConn, number 6, Marquette, and number 12, Creighton. And after number 6, Marquette lost the night before to a very good Providence team on Tuesday night. 72-57 was the final, as the Friars knocked off Marquette there, and they actually have a better overall record at this point as an unranked team than the number 6 Golden Eagles. But the resume, of course, matters there. Well, we had a couple upsets on Wednesday night as well. Number 5, UConn lost 75-60 to Seton Hall. They took the lead at the end of the first half after being down double digits. The Pirates did, and led the entire second half. UConn lost their big center, Davion Klinger. He was hurt in the second half, sprained his ankle. That was a big loss for them. Of course, they were already struggling at that point in the game, but he is a big difference maker, and that could be very problematic moving forward. He did have 14 points and 7 rebounds at the game at that particular point. And the defense for Seton Hall really just swallowed up what UConn was able to do. They finished 37% from the field, 19% three-point shooting. The leading scorer was Tristan Newton, who had 16 points and 6 rebounds, and they just couldn't do a whole lot. UConn did a great job dominating last year. They had a little spurt in the middle of the season where they lost 5 or 6 games. Other than that, a very good team, and they are again this season. We'll circle back to that point in a moment. For Seton Hall, Cadian Richmond led with 23 points. We had Dre Davis with 17. We had Jaden Barato with 10 points and 9 boards. They shot 51% from the field, almost 38% from 3, and just did a great job defensively in smothering the Huskies, and came back from behind again and just never let them back in the ball game. Now, Creighton as well was ranked 12th. They had a couple blowout losses and have just been struggling this season. The defense is just not very good. It's been just a rough road for them. They went to overtime against Villanova and lost 68-66. There was a review play at the end of this game. Couldn't get a shot off to win it. And then in overtime, it was a free throws back and forth. Creighton missed free throws and Villanova missed free throws, and Creighton missed them. There's an opportunity to tie it or win it. Villanova could have extended their lead. Just a wild game, really, at the end of regulation and the end of the overtime as well. And ultimately, it's Villanova that gets a huge win here. Creighton has losses to Colorado State, UNLV, and Villanova now. They do have a big win over Alabama, who is close to 500 overall record-wise now, but has played a brutal schedule. Their other top 100 wins are over Nebraska and Iowa, but they just have kind of a mixed bag right now. Their metrics have them at top 25 in both offense and defensive adjusted efficiency, so that's something, but just a team that's really, really struggling right now, and just struggling offensively in some of these games and executing late, and it's just tough for the Blue Jays, and it sure looks like Big East play will be very difficult considering all three of their top teams lost on Tuesday and Wednesday. And man, Xavier will still be in the mix. They lost to St. John's 81-66, a team in their own right, which is having some problems under Rick Pitino. They're a team full of transfers and just struggling a little bit here. But Xavier is now 6-6 overall, still ranked as a top 60 team. St. John's is in the top 50, but DePaul is the only team that's really out too far. Butler is in the top 70 again and above 500 at least for the moment, and we're gonna have a very interesting Big East regular season, I think, heading into the Big East tournament, where magical things sometimes happen. Arizona, Alabama, I had to finish this morning. Number 4, Arizona beats the Tide 87-74, two of the highest tempo teams in the country. And the Wildcats are able to pretty much hold this one from the beginning. Very close first half, but the second half they're able to pull away. Tommy Lloyd just played a brutal schedule, set up a brutal schedule for his team, and just wanted to get reps in here for his squad. They beat Duke, they beat Michigan State, they beat Wisconsin, they beat Alabama now. They lost to Purdue in a good game. They have Florida Atlantic on deck, and then they'll hit conference play and get some kind of a mixed bag, really. They're going to be favorites to win every conference game and every game moving forward, according to predictions from Ken Pom. But just an awesome slate of games there for the Arizona Wildcats to play and to come out on top of a lot of them and to see that they're truly a team that can win the national championship this year. On the flip side, Nate Oates' team is playing very well too. They're number 1 in adjusted offense in the country, actually better than last year. And they've played Ohio State, Oregon, Clemson, Purdue, Creighton, Arizona in their non-conference. The problem is they're 1-5 in those games. Unfortunately, the defense ranks just outside the top 100. So things actually figure to lighten up a bit once they get into conference play. Still figures to be a bubble team come tournament time, but that offense is something else. They're really clicking there. Mark Sears, Grant Nelson. Overall, the box score for this particular game, you did have Caleb Love with 13 points, only 3 for 11 shooting, though. A lot came with the free throw line, 7 rebounds. Again, that was part of the knock on him that came from the North Carolina group there, was some of the shooting. But again, able to still be relatively productive there. 16 points for Lassen, 15 for Boswell, Ballo, the big man in the middle, 16 and 12, 11 for Johnson, as all of the starters get in double figures, 9 for KJ Lewis off the bench as well. And the Tide, Grant Nelson led with 17 for them and 12 for Mark Sears, their other top guy there. 15 off the bench, by the way, for Sam Walters. He is 3 for 5, 3 for 6 shooting, hits a few free throws as well. So 15 for him off the bench. Overall, Alabama, 20% from 3, 8 for 40, and that's how they live or die, by that 3-point shot. 40 attempts, and they hit 8 of them. 33% overall from the field. Arizona still struggled. 43% from the field, 23 from 3, 73% from the line. I don't believe this game hit the over-under. I believe it was in the 170, so I believe they're actually quite short of that. And it was because of the shooting. Two good teams coming together and just not able to. That's what happens. Sometimes you have better defenses. And the pace, I believe, in this one, at least to my eyes, was a little bit slower. We thought it would be a lot more back and forth, a lot more buckets here. But Arizona is pretty dominant in top 6 in both adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency, and ultimately came away with a win here. So, other notes from Wednesday night here, we did have Nebraska, which has been a very good basketball team. They were down 14 points to North Dakota, but they came back and survived that basketball game. I think they actually have a good team there in the Cornhuskers. I need to kind of review that one. I'd like to see how that goes. I haven't watched a whole lot of Nebraska. Did see a piece of that when they were down and a piece when they were coming back, but that's about it. 83-75 was the final. in that one. And ultimately, the leading scorer there for the Huskers was off the bench, C.J. Witcher. But they put 6 guys in double figures. They shot 46% from the field at the end of the game. West Virginia also drops another game, this time to Radford, a horrible loss for the Mountaineers. They are now 4-7, a tough loss there after Bob Huggins' whole deal scandal, saying things he shouldn't have this past offseason, which saw him get separated from the team. Terribly unfortunate. Guys hit the transfer portal. So tough look for the university and the guys there as they drop another one. Saw a little bit of that. Just not good for those guys there, unfortunately. So that transitions to my next point here. I wish I could locate where I picked this up. So first of all, Ken Pomeroy of KenPom tweeted that the top 4 teams in college basketball are so far above the rest of the field that the gulf between 4 and 5 essentially is about the same as the difference between 5 and like 25. So the gulf is huge. The 1 through 4 are levitating above everyone else, and that is Purdue, Arizona, Houston, and UConn. Those 4 teams are much better. And, Houston arguably hasn't played as difficult a schedule at this particular moment as some teams. They do play in the Big 12, so we will get to see some bigger games from them this upcoming season now that they're out of the American Conference. Now, they unfortunately do have an injury here to Terrence Arukanos, who tore his ACL, which is terribly unfortunate. This team can't ever stay healthy, so that's going to have some impact to the team, but they should hopefully still be on track to compete for the national championship. Of course, we know the twisted ankle for UConn's teammate here, Davion Clingan. Hopefully that's a temporary thing. They've played a pretty difficult schedule so far that we discussed. And both Arizona that we noted and Purdue have played tough schedules as well. Purdue and Arizona actually played each other, with Purdue coming out on top of that particular battle just like a week ago. Unfortunately, that was squirreled away there on a Peacock, which certainly had people, trying to find that game. But Purdue has beaten Arizona, Alabama, Tennessee, Xavier, Gonzaga, Iowa. Just a lot of big wins for them. They lost to Northwestern in overtime, which is the same team they lost to last year. Just seems to have their number there, if you will. Just a difficult team for them to beat. But Purdue very much in the mix for a top team as well. Now, as far as interesting stats, teams that win the national championship, going back to 1999, using KenPom's data here, there was a stat that I picked up somewhere, and I wish I could remember where I picked it up, but I was double checking it, that for teams that win the national championship, they're top 20 in both offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency, good on both sides of the ball, using that metric as the rubric. So looking at the past 24 national championships, so they fall within that range. You're essentially checking 48 categories to see if they fit into that particular range going back over those years. Only twice was that requirement not met. In 2021, Baylor was number 2 in offense and number 22 in defense. They were a 1/10 of a point off from being top 20 in that defensive category and meeting that criteria. Really, really close. In 2014, the Shabazz Napier-led UConn Huskies won as the number 7 seed. The number 10 defense is what they were ranked, and number 39 on offense, whopping number 39. That was just a weird year. Now, they did beat Florida in the tournament that met the criteria on the way there. They also beat Michigan State and Villanova, who are close. Michigan State was 21st in defense. Nova was 21st in offense. The national championship game was against, if you remember, 8 seed Kentucky, who was 14th in offense and 32nd in defense. So obviously the rule is going to be broken with a 7-8 seed playing in the national championship. 5 teams total met the criteria that year, with Michigan State and Nova literally 13th in offense and 21st in defense for Michigan State, and 21st on offense and 12th in defense for Nova. So those two really straddling the line. So 7 capable if you wanted to count those two. And Kentucky and UConn dispatched 5 of those 7 between the two of them. So Kentucky had beaten Louisville and Wichita State. So they beat 3 of the 5 who actually met criteria, and then the other 2 fringe as well. So just a super weird year there. That was the one really big anomaly, and then the Baylor team from 2021 was really, really close. As it stands right now, this particular year, and of course these not even halfway through the season yet, so these can change. Purdue is 2nd in offensive adjusted efficiency, 12th in defense. UConn is 3rd in offense, 19th in defense. Arizona, 6th in offense, 3rd in defense. The best overall metric there. Houston is 16th in offense and 1st in defense. We have a couple interesting members here. Auburn is 12th in offense and 17th in defense. And BYU is 15th in offense and 17th in defense. So a couple really interesting teams there. Then we have a couple fringe squads. That Creighton team is 17th in offense, 21st in defense. And Marquette is 22nd in offense and 18th in defense. So again, Purdue, UConn, Arizona, and Houston so far are passing the eye test and the metrics test. Auburn and BYU are very interesting. Marquette and Creighton, that feisty Big East, are sitting on the peripheral a little bit. A few teams that do not measure up right now, this is according to metrics. Clemson, 28 in offense, 31 in defense. Kentucky, 14 in offense, 46th in defense. Duke, 7th in offense, 30th in defense. North Carolina, 10 and 40. Tennessee, 30 and 4, really good defensively. And notably Kansas, 6th in defense, but 38th offensively. So just worth noting moving forward, because of course Kansas is going to be talked about a lot. The race in the ACC between Duke, North Carolina, and Clemson is going to be talked about. Is Kentucky going to be the class of the SEC? But according to metrics, according to Ken Pomeroy, Purdue, UConn, Arizona, and Houston are really building a differentiator in that college basketball ranking power poll right now. But there are a couple teams lurking, and there are a couple powerhouses that right now do not measure up. So what are we watching Friday? Well, we have no NFL despite a spattering of games over this Christmas little break here. We're a little light on college basketball. There are several games going on, but not a lot of huge ones on Friday. And we have one bowl game, and we have a few on the NBA slate. So let's start during the day here. We do have James Madison tipping off at 1 o'clock. They are ranked 20th right now. Ken Pom currently has them ranked as the 63rd team. They have no top 100 wins outside of Michigan State. They do have 5 in the top 200 overall. They're going to be playing a 4-9 Morgan State team. I don't have a TV network listed for this one yet. If it is, it might be ESPN Plus. We actually do have games starting even earlier. Drexel and Bryant are playing at 11 a.m. on ESPN Plus. That one is for sure. So we do have early day college basketball. The Longhorns Network will have number 19 Texas at 8-2, playing Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Texas is ranked 34th. 0 top 100 wins. They have a shallow schedule right now, and just a kind of a cupcake there as well for them. ESPN Plus will have a whole bunch of games kind of splattered about. 4 o'clock will have Grambling and Florida. Florida State will also be on as well later in the day. But some of the highlights, I should say, start later in the evening. Let's start at 6 o'clock. We do have Clemson. They're ranked 18th, trying to recover after their first loss of the season. They'll be playing Queens University on the ACC network. You'll get an eyeball of Clemson there. Not a top watch game, but they'll be on. 6:30 we get our bowl game then. Now we have Central Florida and Georgia Tech, a couple of 6-6 teams. This will be on ESPN. Central Florida is favored by 5.5, 67.5 point over-under here. Now both of these teams are bottom 10 rush defenses. Central Florida, rightfully favored here, I believe. John Rye Plumlee's last career game there at quarterback at Central Florida. This has been a team that has the ability to put up a lot of points, but again, the defense has been sorely lacking. Georgia Tech, a surprise 6-6 team. Haynes King has done pretty well for them over there after transferring out of Texas A&M. I actually think they can generate a bit of a pass rush. Maybe that's fallen off a bit in the last few games. I didn't watch quite as closely then. I think this will be a good football game, one of the better bowl games between kind of mediocre squads, at least at 6:30 on ESPN, as some of the pedestrian basketball games are going on. The NBA does tip off at 7 o'clock. 76ers, 19-8, big win over the Minnesota Timberwolves here midweek. Joel Embiid, 34 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists a game. Just another great season for him. Raptors, you never know what you're really going to get night to night. They're 11-16 right now. Scotty Barnes, 20 points, 9 rebounds, almost 6 assists a game, leading that squad. But that'll be an interesting game there. Not nationally broadcast, unfortunately, but that will be on the NBA app there. Also at 7 in college basketball, we will have number 6 Marquette at 9-3 playing Georgetown, who is 7-5. Marquette trying to lick its wounds a little bit here. Georgetown now 179th per KenPom. 0 top 200 wins. They do have a loss to number 358 in his rankings, Holy Cross, but they do have a winning record. Not going to make a tournament, but they're going somewhere at the very least. They're going to get slaughtered probably in Big East play, but above 500 right now. And Marquette trying to rebound there. That's on FS1. Also at 7, Baylor will be playing a winless Mississippi Valley State team, and trying to bounce back from their two losses, of course. That'll be on the Big 12 network and on ESPN+. 7:30, back to the NBA. We will have Nets and Nuggets. This will be on NBA TV. That's hosting 13-14 there as they continue to try and at least stay in the play-in picture, while the Nuggets are kind of just plodding around. 19-10 at this point in the season. Aaron Gordon is back now after a little absence. Jokic still 26 points, 12 rebounds, 9 a game. This should be an interesting little matchup for them on the road if they're interested in participating at full power. At 8 o'clock in college basketball, we will have number 2 Kansas. The Jayhawks will be playing a 7-5 Yale squad on the Big 12 network and ESPN+. You can get eyes on the Jayhawks. And number 24 Wisconsin at 8-3 will be playing the 7-9 Chicago State Cougars. Are they the Cougars? They might be the Cougars on the Big 10 network. So you can get eyes on those two teams. And we have 2 8 o'clock NBA games tipping off. The Miami Heat at 16-12 right now. They'll be hosting the 12-15 Hawks. And I'm more excited to get an eye on the Rockets at 13-12, hosting the Mavericks at 16-10. Doncic doing a great job with Kyrie Irving being out hurt. 32, 8, and 9 per game. The Rockets doing a great job, especially defensively with Oduku coming in and just being a great head coach there. Sengun, there we go, averaging almost 20 points a game, almost 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and just doing some crazy things there. So that would be just a fun game, I think, to watch there between two interstate opponents there. Neither of those games national either, unfortunately. Moving to 9 o'clock, a slightly more interesting basketball game. Missouri is 7-4. They're hosting Illinois, who's ranked 13th in the AP, 8-2 overall. This is on FS1. Missouri is a top 100 team per KenPom. They have 2 top 100 wins. They have a bad loss to Jackson State, who's in like the mid 200s. Illinois is a good win over Rutgers and Florida Atlantic, but they really don't want to lose here. They're top 15 in defense. Their offense is a lot further behind, and just an opportunity to get a good win on the road here. And Missouri is going to push them a little bit. I don't have a line on this yet. I'm sure there'll be one out here by the time you're listening to this, but this could be an interesting game for Illinois on the road here. Number 17, BYU, will also be playing at 9 on the Big 12 Network. They're 10-1. Again, a lot of great metrics here. And Bellarmine is just a very interesting team, very interestingly coached there, a little bit different style. They're 4-9. Doesn't always pay off for them. But again, if that's something that you want to peek in on, just a very different kind of squad that they'll be having their hands full with there. Also at 9 on ESPN2 is a rather big game for UCLA and Maryland. Both teams really struggling, not looking like tournament teams at all right now. UCLA is 5-5 overall. Maryland is 7-4. Both expected to be decent squads, this team, but UCLA just lost to CSU Northridge. They also have losses to Villanova, Ohio State, Gonzaga, Marquette, the good teams on their schedule, meaning they have 0 decent wins. I think Long Island might be their best victory. I mean, nobody. And now they have a bad loss as well, sitting at 500. Just horrible. Maryland, they have wins over Penn State, and maybe UMBC might be their next best win. They have losses to UAB and Davidson. Just a struggle for these two teams who don't want to fall too much further in the tank. But billed as a top, matchup between two Power 5 teams earlier in the season is now a horrid struggle. So 10 o'clock will bring us Colorado State, ranked number 16 in the AP poll, 10-1. They're playing Loyola Marymount on ESPN+, so that will be on deck. They're ranked 28th in KenPom. 3 top 50 wins over Creighton, Colorado, Washington. They do have a loss to St. Mary's, which should be a quad 1 loss, maybe a quad 2. Top 10 in offense. They shoot over 60% from 2, so you can get your eyes on a pretty good team there if you have ESPN2. And ESPN will be playing Wizards at the Warriors. Can the Warriors rebound? But they got problems all over the place. Of course, Draymond out for several weeks. Steph Curry broke his streak of over 200 and I don't know how many consecutive games hitting a three-pointer. And he is the offense right now. Just a struggle bus there as they're sitting under 500 at 13-14. The Wizards at 4-22, but ESPN's going to air that game for somebody. And on the NBA League Pass, we'll have Kings at 16-9 and the Suns at 14-13. A couple leading scorers there. Fox is averaging 30. Durant should get MVP votes, 31 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists if he's able to maintain the Suns staying over 500 while waiting to kind of figure things out there with Beal in the mix. So that is the slate for Friday. Not everything is super accessible with ESPN Plus and the NBA in the mix there. There is the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic in the mix there as well. There aren't a lot of super great teams in that, and the finals will actually be later on in the weekend as well, so we'll touch on that. But just kind of some light college basketball, some NBA action, only a couple games on prime time. An interesting bowl game, I think, and probably the best college basketball game being at 9 o'clock Eastern time, that Missouri-Illinois game. So a little bit lighter of a Friday schedule, quite frankly. As we head into Saturday, we have quite a bit more in the mix here. We have several bowl games as we get into prime bowl season, really, with this upcoming Saturday. We have 2 NFL games. We have the NBA in the mix as well, with a key 12:30 game. And we just have a little bit of everything. So let's start at noon. We do have Butler and Providence playing on FS1 as one of the key games. Butler and Providence, both top 65 teams. Providence's wins over Wisconsin and Marquette, they're looking pretty good. Butler needs to beef up its schedule a little bit. Again, Big East should be a very competitive conference, especially after what we saw this past week. That is a good game. Another top or Power 5 matchup, I should say, is Mississippi State at Rutgers. The Bulldogs are 9-2. Rutgers is 7-3 right now. This is on the Big Ten Network. Mississippi State has 3 top 100 wins. They have 2 losses outside the top 100, though. They're top 10 in adjusted defense. Rutgers is not in either of those categories, but generally a very good defensive team. I haven't had an opportunity to get eyes on them, but that is an interesting game there at noon as well on the college basketball slate. Our bowl games kicking off at noon starts with Arkansas State and Northern Illinois on ESPN. Couple 6-6 teams here. That game is not particularly interesting to me, the Camellia Bowl, with a team from the MAC and a team from the Sun Belt there. Now, the 76 Birmingham Bowl will be on ABC at noon. That is Duke and Troy. Now, Duke is 7-5, but unfortunately, Delco's moved on to Texas A&M already. Of course, Riley Leonard, their quarterback, entered the transfer portal and committed to Notre Dame already. So he's gone straight up somewhere else. And Troy's 11-2, winners of the Sun Belt. They've looked very good this season. They're 7.5-point favorites at this point, 44.5-point over/under. Not sure what Duke's going to be able to do here, but it's an opportunity for a non-Power 5 school to get a big win over a P5. Some of these games can get pretty interesting. It's supposed to be in the mid-50s in Birmingham, Alabama for this game, so maybe a channel flipper there on the bowl slate. At 12:30, the NBA will kick off with a standalone game on the NBA Network. The 2 seed in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks, stand at 20-7. They're starting to figure out their their defense a little bit. Offense is not a problem. And they're going to the 5 seed right now, the New York Knicks, standing at 16-11. Jalen Brunson exploded for a huge game just a few nights ago, and they're eagerly anticipating a matchup between a big opponent here that they can knock off here just before Christmas. So that's the standalone slot in the NBA on 12:30 here on this upcoming Saturday, in the mix of college basketball starting to take over Saturdays and a couple of bowl games. So don't lose sight of that. Yeah, certainly an opportunity for the Knicks to grab a big win there, or Milwaukee to get a big one on the road. Moving to 1 o'clock. So we do have NC State in college basketball, 8-3. They're playing an 0-11 Detroit Mercy there, though. Since Anthony Davis left, it's been even more of a problem there. Detroit Mercy. That's on the ACC network. NC State's not particularly impressive so far. 1 top 100 win, and that was over number 91 in the Ken Pom ranking so far, Boston College, in overtime. But they'll have an opportunity for another win there. That struggling West Virginia team at 4-7 will be hosting 6-5 Toledo at 1 o'clock on the Big 12 network as well. That one almost isn't worth noting, quite frankly. But we're kind of void on big college basketball games until the afternoon. So let's skip here to 2 o'clock. Southern Mississippi 6-5. They're hosting Ole Miss, who is ranked 25th in the AP. They're 11-0 overall. And Chris Beard, of course, the scandal, the horrible thing that went on between him and his wife there, fired from Texas, moved on to Ole Miss, has them rolling so far. They shoot almost 40% from 3. Memphis is the biggest win they have so far out of 3 top 100 victories. The metrics don't actually show that they're a great team, so they might take some losses when they get to SEC play. But right now, a top 25 team. Also at 2 o'clock, Xavier and Seton Hall. Of course, the two teams, Seton Hall getting a big win and Xavier taking a big loss this past week. But two teams playing there on FS1 in this tough Big East. And moving to 3 o'clock, we have probably the best college basketball game on the slate. Number 14 per AP, Florida Atlantic hosting number 4, Arizona, in the Desert Holiday Classic on Fox. Big game. Mark that. 3 o'clock Fox, Arizona, Florida Atlantic. Again, Arizona top 10 offense and defense just got a big win. Continues to rack big wins. Duke, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Alabama, lost to Purdue. Caleb Love, still not, struggling a bit for them, shooting, particularly this past game, but still able to get the assists and move the ball around for this fast-paced offense. Florida Atlantic brought almost all their guys back. Ken Pom has them with 5 top 100 wins and actually has them at 14th as well, surprisingly, same as the AP. They did lose to Illinois, and they did lose to Bryant, who's ranked in the 200s, which is a little surprising. But this is still a good basketball team, and Arizona's going to be heavily favored, but this is still one that's certainly worth keeping your peepers on. At 3:30, we move into a couple bowl games here and a basketball game. So we have another NBA standalone game. The Clippers at 17-13 are figuring things out with their big four here of Harden, Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. And they're hosting the Celtics, who are 21-6. I don't know if there's still free trials out there for NBA League Pass or anything like that. But this would be an opportunity to get it over this weekend, and this would be one of the games to check out. Celtics looking awesome. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I mean, we all know that, of course. Porzingis is back healthy, though. They had a nice win the other night. 21-6. The Celtics are my preseason pick to win the championship. 144-119 was the win over the Kings the other night on the road, and it looks like they'll be rolling again. But they have a nice game here against the Clippers this upcoming Saturday, the 23rd. And our bowl games at 3:30. Air Force at 8-4, and the Armed Forces Bowl will be hosting the 11-1 James Madison squad that was able to make the bowl game, I guess, after an exception from the NCAA, despite the fact that the rule is kind of foolish. This is on ABC. James Madison's actually favored. The Air Force had a great season. McLeod, the quarterback for James Madison, I believe, is in the transfer portal. He threw for 3,400 yards and 32 touchdowns this year. Not sure who's going to pilot the offense, yet they're still favored heavily in this one. This should actually be a decent game. Air Force, of course, you can argue, is not always the most electric offense, but this should be a well-played football game. 3:30 on ABC, and the side piece to that will be the Idaho Potato Bowl. A couple 6 and 6ers here, Utah State and Georgia State, with the Utah State Aggies being favored by about 2.5 here out of the Mountain West. Georgia State snuck in there as well from Conference USA. That's kind of the B list, I would say, out of the two, but that James Madison game I'm interested in seeing in that particular case. Moving on to 4 o'clock then. Continuing with college basketball at 4 o'clock, CBS's big game is going to be number 23 per the AP. The Memphis Tigers hosting Vanderbilt. And Vandy's struggling this year, 4-7, not looking like a very good team. Memphis is prime viewing, though, 9-2. Great team, veteran team. A lot of guys using up 5-6 year eligibility at this particular point. They've got just a lot of talent here. They've beaten 3 straight top 4 teams in the past, top 40 teams in the past 10 days. They're just outside the top 25. They've beaten Texas A&M, Clemson. They blew out Virginia. They're 7-2 overall against top 100 teams. That's a lot of top 100 teams to play, first of all, and a great record. One of the toughest schedules, I think, so far. Top 35 in offense and defense, just a really good basketball team. And Vanderbilt might be looking for a new coach if Jerry Stackhouse decides to either move on or is helped along next year. FS1 will have Villanova, who's currently 7-4 now after their past win here in overtime over Creighton, at DePaul, who has struggled. So that'll be a 4 o'clock game. And then Alabama will be playing Eastern Kentucky at 4 o'clock on the SEC network. Is a much later opponent on the slate. At 4:30, we finally tip off our big-time NFL schedule, starting with the Steelers hosting the Bengals. Now, Jamar Chase has just been ruled out as I'm recording. So that'll be a receiver down for the Bengals. They're still favored by, they were favored by 2. I think the line's still around there with a 36.5 point over-under. Browning's been doing a great job. I thought it was very interesting that he made his first NFL start. I believe it was the same day or within a day that Washington was announced to make the playoffs. Of course, last time they were in the playoffs, Browning was starting at quarterback for the Washington Huskies. So just very interesting how these stars all align here. And just great for him what he's done for the Bengals, keeping them above 500, 3 straight wins, 8-6 now. 3-3 away is their record, and Steelers are 4-4 at home and really struggling. We, of course, have a return quarterback there, Mason Rudolph, and I would expect the Bengals to win. But rivalry game, of course, 4:30 on NBC. As we move more towards our evening slate here, starting at, let's go to, I think, college football here at 7 o'clock. We've got some bowl games. We do have the South Alabama, Eastern Michigan, couple 6-6 teams at the 68 Ventures Bowl on ESPN, of course. South Alabama favored by 17 here. Just a better team than Eastern, quite frankly. Bradley, Webb, Lacey are a great quarterback, running back, receiver combination for the Cougars there of Alabama. At 7:30, we have a semi-interesting game. Northwestern finished 7-5, which was stunning, and Utah 8-4, which was also somewhat shocking. And they're playing the Las Vegas Bowl at 7:30 on ABC. Utah's favored by 6.5 with a 41.5 point over/under. I think that's wrong. Utah's got 3 quarterbacks out. I don't know who's playing quarterback. A walk-on, a converted something or other. Like, they're already playing a converted running back who played quarterback in high school as the 3rd stringer, and now he's even not playing or in the transfer portal. And the offense sucked. So they're expecting Utah's defense to win here, but I think Northwestern is going to find a way to move the ball or do something. They're just expecting Utah to smother them and find a way to score points. I don't think that's just going to happen. Bryant was good enough for Northwestern. Not spectacular by any means, but he managed to get them to 7 wins against some bad teams, but still, Utah wasn't much different in the end. So, I don't know. This could be a bad game, quite frankly. It could be an amusingly bad game. It could just be a bad game, but Northwestern and Utah, Las Vegas Bowl, and I think the wrong team is favored there. But that's ABC at 7:30. The full NBA slate tips off at 7 as well. The Hornets at 7-19 will be hosting the Nuggets at 19-10. We do have the Pacers at 14-12 hosting the Magic at 16-10, and that'll probably be one of the better games as the struggling Pacers since the in-season tournament, trying to turn things around, and they're all offense, while the Magic are a lot of defense there, so that'll be an interesting matchup. Pelicans at 16-12 hosting the Rockets at 13-12, another matchup of young teams there. Moving to 7:30, we have the Hawks at 12-15, hosting the Grizzlies at 7-19. John Moran is back, 34 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and a game winner in his return. Nets hosting the Pistons at 7:30, enough said there. And Raptors hosting the Jazz at 7:30 as well in that one. Now we move on to our 8 o'clockers. Now, first of all, we have UConn playing St. John's on Fox. UConn now 10-2, St. John's 8-3. Don't know if we're going to have a healthy UConn teams. We discussed with the center being banged up there. St. John's is interesting with Rick Pitino's return. They're 8-3, but they've certainly had their struggles. They're ranked in the top 50 per KenPom with 3 top 100 wins. They're passable on defense. The offense ranks top 50. They're not an awesome team, though. I mean, Das Jenkins was at Iowa with Pitino, and he transferred. Chris Liedlum was at Harvard and then transferred. Jordan Dingle was at Penn and then transferred. Their leading scorer, rebounder, blocker, Joel Sorano, was there last season, their center. And it's just not a picture of 5-star transfers and top guys at the moment. It's a passable team that will probably be in the NIT. But they're going to play a possibly banged up UConn team. We'll see. UConn's fun to watch. Also at 8 o'clock, St. Mary's is 7-5. They're expected to be, a much better team this year and possibly win the West Coast Conference and compete with Gonzaga. It's not looking that way right now. They're 2-4 against top 100 teams. They're 11th in defense. They are a horrible three-point shooting team. They're like 26%. They're a horrible free throw shooting team at like 62%. And they're playing an 8-4 Missouri State team on ESPN Plus. Just can't lose that one. Also at 8 o'clock, we get the second of our double header for the NFL. Bills and Chargers. Bills are 8-6. They're playing the Chargers, who are 5-9. Lions at 12, notably. Intern coach in there. Eastern stick at quarterback. Allen might be out again for the Chargers. Lots of problems there. Bills just hoping to get another big win to advance to the playoffs, and that's squirreled away on the Peacock Network if you get that. Sure, viewership will be up there, but could be a very ugly ball game. 8 o'clock will bring us more NBA action. The 12-17 Bulls will be hosting the 16-12 Cavs, who are all banged up. The Bulls themselves got a big win the other night when they were able to upset the Lakers 124-108, and actually the Sixers before that 108-104. So maybe they're finding something there, but also possibly Zach LaVine will get traded at the deadline. So keep an eye on that. They also have the Thunder at 17-8 hosting the Lakers 15-13. As things are starting to get a little slippery there. That'll be the top watch for me. The Mavericks again, 16-11, hosting the Spurs at 4-22. That's at 8:30. Also at 8:30, the Warriors again, 13-14, hosting the Blazers at 17-19. Finally, we move to the late night. It's a standalone NBA game. The Kings at 16-10 again, hosting the Timberwolves at 20-6, the best defense in the NBA. Lost to the Sixers last time out, but again, this is a great ball game, and our last bowl game on the slate as well, the Hawaii Bowl. That's why it's a late night one. San Jose State at 7-5 and Coastal Carolina 7-5. A lot of guys in the transfer portal for Coastal. This is on ESPN. San Jose State favored by 10, and they have a pretty solid team here. Colorado, their quarterback, 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns. I like what they can do. They're a fun team, I think. So that will be on as well in the late night window. I'm more interested in the NBA game personally, but I'll be flipping over if I'm up for that bowl game as well. So let's head into the Sunday slate, and we are a little lacking, of course, heading into the Christmas Eve there. No college football, no NBA, and light on college basketball. We have a tournament that will be playing out, and it is going to be playing on Friday, starting at 5 o'clock. There aren't a lot of big teams. It is the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. Georgia Tech, Hawaii, Nevada, Old Dominion, Portland, TCU, Temple, and UMass are the participants. I believe TCU is the highest ranked team out of that group. So you may not be keying in on the games necessarily on Friday. However, Sunday they are the only games on besides the 6-game NFL slate. So that is starting at 1:30, and they will run back to back through the rest of the day. Again, Georgia Tech, Hawaii, Nevada, Old Dominion, Portland, TCU, Temple, UMass. Might get a couple decent matchups out of that running throughout Sunday. And the NFL, a little light. 6 1 p.m. games, 3 afternoon games, 1 night, because all the games are, of course, distributed due to the holiday, and extra Monday night games, Saturday night games, that kind of thing, as we're familiar with. So the 1 o'clock window does, of course, have some intrigue, as it always does. Now, the Falcons are 6-8. They're hosting the Colts at 8-6. Falcons are actually favored at home, which is a little interesting. I'm not sure what their offense can do. The Colts have been well coached, quite frankly. Gardner Minshew, obviously, the backup quarterback in there. Jonathan Taylor might be back in at running back as well. But quarterback's actually kind of been the weakness there. For the Falcons, ironically, it's been the weakness as well. But Colts have been well managed. 44.5 point over under. Arthur Smith might be out after this season. It's been pretty poor coaching and management by him. But that'll be an interesting game. Titans at 5-9, hosting Seattle at 7-7. I don't know if we'll have backup quarterbacks in here for both teams, for one team, for neither team, but Seattle still hoping for a playoff spot. They're favored by 2.5. That wide receiver trio they got going is phenomenal. 41.5 point over under in that one. Lions and Vikings is a big one. Detroit 3.5 point favorites, 46.5 point over under. They are 10-4. They're actually 5-2 on the road, so they're the same on the road as they are at home. Vikings are 2-4 at home, 7-7 overall on their third quarterback of the year, and it'll be a big game for the Lions to win there. Now the Commanders are 4-10. They're struggling. They're playing in New York at the Jets, who are 5-9. Really no playoffs for either of these teams, but the Jets are favored by 3. There's been lots of Aaron Rodgers news, particularly that he was activated and put on the roster, which forced them to cut another player just a few days before Christmas. But all that news and nothing's going to happen. Neither team will be in the playoffs. Rodgers will not play this year, and a lot of news for a lot of nothing. Packers at 6-8, still fighting for a playoff spot. The Panthers at 2-12, hosting. Be interesting to see if they can even hang here at all. Packers only favored by 5. They've looked like an interesting team. Jordan Love actually looks okay. The Panthers 37.5 point over under, so we're not expecting points here at all. Can the Packers put some up and look all right winning this game? They're 2-5 on the road. The Texans, CJ Stroud expected out again. I would love to see this team in the playoffs, but man, relying on Case Keenum, they're 8-6, 5-2 at home. Cleveland's coming in. They're 9-5 overall, but only 2-4 on the road. 2.5 point favorites though, 40.5 point over under. Joe Flacco, playing with like 2 starting offensive linemen, has been making things work, including the surprise comeback win against the Bears last week. I don't know. We're already playing backup running backs. Murray Cooper's, I mean, he still plays there, right? We wouldn't know it. Myles Garrett problems. I don't know. This game was great on paper before we were down to backup quarterbacks and injuries. But heading into the afternoon, we do have Jags-Bucks. Buccaneers 7-7. Great game for Baker Mayfield last week. One of the best for a quarterback per metrics the entire season. Hosting the Jags at 8-6, who have looked pretty pitiful since Christian Kirk got hurt. And, there's some injuries to Lawrence. They're 5-1 on the road, though, the Jags are. Bucks sitting at 500 at home. They're still favored by 1.5, though, with a 42.5 point over-under. Not quite sure what to make of this matchup. Same time, Bears, Cards. Cards are surprisingly 3-11. I would think that they'd be a little better now that they have Kyler Murray back, but Marquise Brown has been questionable at times. They have found a bit of a run game, but they still don't have talent anywhere. The Bears, I think, do. They're 5-9. They just haven't found a good coach, I think, is the problem. They're actually 500 at home, 4.5 point favorites. And I think the Bears could actually maybe not quite get in the mix here. We're too late in the season, but a win here would move them to 6-9 and not too far away from the Vikings or the Packers, just saying. And then Dolphins-Cowboys is the big one. Both teams 10-4. But the Dolphins are 6-1 at home, and the Cowboys are 3-4 on the road. Dolphins favored by a point, 49.5 point over under. Tyreek Hill is so important to the Dolphins offense. He really needs to be in this game for them to hang. But both of these teams, very good, but doubts linger. Can the offense for the Dolphins continue to operate at a high level without their key playmaker? And can the Cowboys notch another big win here? Can they do it? And then the late night game, unfortunately, is Broncos-Patriots. The 7-7 Broncos hosting the 3-11 Pats. This one will be on NFL Network. 6.5 points Denver's way. 34.5 point over-under. We might not see a lot of points in this. And if something weird were to happen, a bounce of the ball, special teams, then the Pats could actually win this in my approximation. So this is probably going to be a competitive, gross, but entertaining game. Let me say that. So that is your NFL slate for Sunday the 24th. And again, Couple college basketball games going on, but not a whole lot else. Monday, Christmas Day. No college sports going on at all. Of course, we have our 5-game NBA header, I guess. And then the NFL has games on as well. They started that last season, I believe it was. 3 games, and the nightcap is phenomenal. So starting at noon, we do have Knicks and Bucks in a rematch. You get them twice this weekend. Knicks in Madison Square Garden hosting the Bucks. So you'll get the initial play on Friday, I believe it is, and then Monday you'll get the Christmas Day real fight, I guess it is. Then at 1 o'clock, as that game's going to halftime, you can watch Chiefs and Raiders on CBS. Chiefs favored by 10 in this one, 41.5 point over-under. Bucks favored by 3.5 in the basketball game. But, Chiefs offense has been a struggle. Rice has come along as a wide receiver, but still a lot of dropped balls. Kelsey not quite looking the same either. In the afternoon, the second NBA game we get is Nuggets at 19-10 hosting the Warriors at 13-14 on ABC. Nuggets favored by 5.5 in that one. Exciting to see Jokic on Christmas Day, although he seems to be indifferent. I think he'll be prepared for this one, and we'll get to see Curry as well. Although playing in Colorado, it's unfortunate Draymond's out for this game. Just a real bummer, but such is life, I guess. 4:30, we'll see our next NFL game. Eagles-Giants, the rivalry. Eagles 10-4 right now. Giants 5-9. Not looking super great for either one at this particular moment, but a rivalry nonetheless. 12 points is the line on this one, but we're still building up to our good game here. 5 o'clock, we will see our number 3 NBA game. Lakers and Celtics, the old rivalry on ABC, and I think this will be great. I think all our guys will be ready for this one. Boston's favored by 4.5 on the road as the Lakers have struggled recently, but they're 10-3 at home, and the Celtics are 6-6 away. Yeah, all 6 of their losses come on the road. That might be the second best game overall on the day. 8 o'clock, then we'll have Heat and Sixers. Heat at 16-12, and then the Sixers at 19-8, of course. Playing some great ball. Tyrese Maxey's really come along. And then the big football game, of course, Ravens at Niners, couple of 11-3 squads here. Ravens 6-1 away, Niners 5-1 at home. 5.5 is the line here. 46.5 point over under. Miami's actually favored by 1.5 at home, by the way, in the Sixers game. So that should be a good one. Just a competitive, great team there. We all know how that is. That'll be a good ball game. Could be a little feisty, as could 49ers and Ravens. Now, Lamar Jackson, the MVP is kind of wide open. Brock Purdy is kind of the front runner right now. I think Lamar's still in the mix. Tyreek Hill is on the outside. But there's still some candidates. And this, you can make the argument this is a battle between 2 potential MVP candidates at quarterback. Top teams in the AFC, NFC. Super Bowl preview. You can put all the measures you want on this one. Looks like there's showers expected right around 60 degrees. This could just be a fun, awesome football game right here. San Francisco, again, just a heavy line really put on them in this game because they've just outclassed everyone they've played for the most part after that 2-game skid earlier in the season. But just high expectations for a really good football game here. Ravens, again, seem to be banged up on some of their better years, which is too bad. Down to like the 3rd running back now, which is a shame. 2nd tight end. I don't know where Odell sits at the moment. I think he's healthy-ish. I still have wide receiver complaints with that team. I love Lamar Jackson. But this should be a really good ball game. Niners were my pick to win the Super Bowl. I'm happy to see where they're at right now. Our nightcap then for the NBA is Phoenix and the Mavericks. Don't think we'll be all healthy here. Not sure what Kyrie's timeline is, but Mavericks and Suns, for whoever plays there, should be excellent. At the very least, we should have Durant and Doncic if nothing else happens, and that should be a good one. Phoenix favored by 5.5 at the moment. Really high expectations for that one as well on ESPN. So a great 8-game slate running throughout the day there. Some games better than others. Giants-Eagles, a rivalry game, but don't know about that one. Chiefs-Raiders as well. Will the Warriors actually be able to hang with Denver? But for the most part, Bucks-Knicks should be good. Again, we'll see Friday what happens. I don't want to say anyone's going to sit out, but Christmas Day is the big one. Lakers-Celtics will be a firefight. Heat and Sixers should be a firefight. Suns-Mavericks, although not healthy, should be interesting in the nightcap. Niners-Ravens, high expectations. So lots of good games for Monday on Christmas Day. So happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, happy whatever you celebrate. Enjoy this time of the year. Enjoy your time with friends, families, food, and enjoy the sports, the music, the movies. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And I'll chat with you later. Bye-bye.